Welcome to the Hospitality Maverick podcast show with me, Michael Tinkster. We are on a mission to share what Maverick leaders know and do to build businesses that deliver strong results and positive impact on people, society, and the planet. Thank you to our brand partner BizSimply for sponsoring this episode. BizSimply is the all-in-one workforce management software that enables your business to become more efficient and profitable. The software is designed and built by hospitality experts to enhance the way shift-oriented operators manage their business, optimize their entire people journey, and making every shift run like clockwork. And we join forces to help the industry to find new ways to become even more innovative in how we lead our people, how we operate, how we grow, and how we serve our customers. Together, we wanted to share strategies and tools to make the industry thrive long term.
When I look at our senior leadership team, whether that's the operations team that are now multi-site managers or the head office team, almost all of those, with a few exceptions, have come through the ranks. We've got a marketing guy that actually started on the bar, a finance guy that's worked for me for 15 years, and they are exceptionally talented people and they understand the ethos of the business. And that is critical. And I think that then just pervades every element. So the culture of the business is absolutely first and foremost. When people then come to join us, they don't really need to learn what the culture's about. It's just there.
This is Richard Coldlough, the Managing Director of the Parogon Pub Group. The Parogon Pub Group is an independent group based in Staffordshire. Started back in 2007 by 5 local friends that wanted to bring better food and hospitality to the area they lived in. Richard shares their journey, the vision for the group, and their philosophy on how they approach growth gracefully, as well as their future plans. We discuss what their business priorities is in the current market and how they are navigating the current storm in hospitality. Richard shares how they build culture that creates a belonging and also deliver business objectives. And he also shares how they are involving their people from the front line up to management in making better business decisions. We dive into what Richard's key learnings has been over the last couple of years and how he makes tough decisions as a leader and how he keeps himself in the impact zone in a fast-moving world. If you like today's episode, it will mean the world to me if you could leave a review of our show, either on our website, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. The better the reviews, the better the guest, and ultimately, the better the learning will be for you. Now, dear Maverick, it's time to grab your pen and notebook and enjoy. Today, we will go on a journey. We're gonna go out and say, I don't know, and maybe I'm gonna be corrected by the guest today, but I feel like we're traveling out to the countryside, and we actually want to give people a bit of an insight into how you actually, take some kind of passion and develop that into a very serious business. A group of friends with a shared passion for food and good drinks came together a long time ago to create something special. And that's actually what we're going to have a conversation about today. And then how does the landscape look for them in the post-pandemic era, and actually the exciting times they have ahead where they have lots of plans for expanding the business. With that said, welcome to the podcast, Richard. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
I don't know if I oversold or undersold you there before we started, but it would be really good for the audience to get a bit of an insight into, who are you, your background, how you came together with a group of friends, and now have a nice little restaurant/pub group that's called Parogon Group in the north of England.
Okay, so Parogon Group came into being 15 years ago. And it was founded by 4 friends from school. So 3 of my really good friends who were all at the same school together, all with very different backgrounds. And we all shared a common passion for food and drink and going out. We loved socializing. However, we were tending to go out of the area a lot. Our hometown didn't have anything that was particularly attractive to us. So we came together to create Paragon Group purely and simply out of a selfish need that there was nothing of any quality, particularly in our area at that time. So the four founders were all the same age, give or take 12 months, and we were a solicitor. Uh, so I had a senior solicitor on the team. We had a guy Phil, who was in hospitality, had worked for TGI's, he had his own coffee shops. I was a pharmacist. I'd actually had my own business for 15 years before that and had sold a chain of 7 pharmacies. So I'd got some retail experience, and also I understood about looking after people and providing a great personal service. We also had a very well qualified hospitality industry professional, David Myers, who had worked for Mitchells and Butler. He'd also run a hotel chain. He'd got loads of experience running marketing divisions and various large pub corporations. James Keats, who was a solicitor, he'd also got lots of different business experience running property portfolio as well. So the combination of our skills were quite disparate, but also came together really well to form a great kind of combination. And also we shared a very similar passion for interior design. We liked smart surroundings. We loved good quality food, and we all like people. So that combination really came together and worked really well. And the launch of our first site, the Swan with 2 Necks, in 2007 was challenging, to say the least. It was something that none of us had done before in terms of launching a pub business. And it was quite an ambitious project. It was a 220 cover restaurant. We were aiming to do great quality gastro food. And we kind of assembled a team, refurbished the property, and launched it all in a 12-week spell. It's not something I would recommend, if I'm quite honest. I think it's a case of, at the time, what we didn't know probably was probably helping us just get our foot down, because if we'd have known what we were letting ourselves in for, we would never have done it.
No, it is what do you call it? Being ignorant sometimes as an entrepreneur it's quite good, because else you would never ever pursue it.
No question about it. If we'd have realised just what we were letting ourselves in for, we would never have done it.
Yeah.
It was a tough start, but exciting, and we struck a chord with the public almost straight away. Our biggest problem actually was keeping up with demand, and actually delivering the product that we were promising. So yeah, that was definitely the biggest challenge to start with.
And what happened since the launch then in 2007? You're definitely grown, and I guess also you got on top of your initial challenge of delivering quality and capacity.
Yes, we have. I think one of the great things that we did have was we knew what we wanted to deliver. We just weren't sure at the time how to join the dots to get there. But we learned that really quickly over that first 6 to 12 months. And by the end of the first 12 months, we'd also brought in a chap called Chris Childs, who's now a director and shareholder of the business, who was an industry professional, a great guy. And he really helped us get up to speed as well with our standards, because we knew exactly where we wanted to be. It was just getting those standards. And within 12 months, we were firing an incredibly busy site, and it suddenly became a changed scenario. Was it just a hobby? Was it a bit of fun? Actually, this could be a fantastic business, and we could take it further, which is exactly what we did over the following years as we took that initial DNA and ideas that we had and extrapolated it across the other sites that we purchased.
And where are you today then? What have you developed up to now? What is like a status quo, I would say so?
Okay, so we have 9 trading sites at the minute. operate in different formats, all within what I would term a premium volume space. So they're all really busy sites, all premium food and drink outlets. There's no 2-for-1 kind of angle or no value proposition particularly. We don't discount. We just deliver a great quality product at a fair price and with amazing service. So those 9 sites, we have different formats spread over those, from gastropubs. We have a smokehouse, which is quite a relaxed, family-friendly environment. We have a bar and grill, which we're just about to open our second bar and grill, which will be our 10th site in July. We also have an all-day dining concept called Willow, which we're really excited about. We opened that just after lockdown. That has proven to be extremely popular, and we believe that that could be a brand as well that we'll be running out. So I'm looking for sites currently to take that. It's a smaller footprint. It's 100 covers, but it's open from 8 in the morning till midnight and transitions through the day really well to give different experiences for the consumer. So that's something that we're pretty excited about.
And why different formats? Because normally when you create a winning model, there's definitely the old school way. You find your Starbucks or your McDonald's, you find your winning model, and then you open number 2, 3, 4, and then the rest is 12, 24, 50, 100, and then international. That's normally how you do it. But why did you do different formats, and what has been your thoughts about that, creating the business?
I definitely appreciate the attraction of a cookie cutter approach. There's no question about it. If you've got a winning formula, why wouldn't you just run it out to every single site? For us, it was partly a case of geography. We soaked up quite a few sites that were within close proximity to each other, which meant that actually we needed to have a different look and feel to each venue. But at the same time, that had certain advantages in terms of we could manage them quite easily. So the ops team could get around the sites because they were close together. And also it allowed us to move staff, team members between sites and give them development opportunities actually that we wouldn't have been able to do if we were opening in big cities spread out throughout the country. So there were some advantages of being geographically close together, but ultimately that's what was the driver for us having different offers, because we were all within a 10-minute drive of different sites. So it just wasn't possible to give the same look. However, where we're at now, spreading geographically wider, we can take those formats and we can take them to different cities now that we have this structure within the management team to be able to deliver that kind of operation.
Do you think you're gonna come up with other formats in the future, or are you thinking now we have some kind of winning formula here, but it's not a cookie cutter, but in a way it gives us more strings on the bow, if you say so?
I think that's a good question, Michael. We don't envisage coming up with any new offers. We will be evolving the offers that we've got to stay current, to keep fresh with the customers. We want to, keep them interested. So we will definitely be evolving them, but I don't think there'll be any brand new offers. And I think ultimately what we've got within our portfolio will allow us to move to different areas and different kind of surroundings without necessarily coming up with anything absolutely brand new.
What is the mission? What is your mission for the group? What is because you said you've gone from 1 to 10 sites, so it went from being serving your own needs to suddenly you're serious in the hospitality business with lots of moving parts, and you want more of that. But what is the mission for you guys? It's a big national player? Is it a small giant? What's it?
I think at the minute we have ambitions to grow at 2 to 3 sites a year, which we are geared up to do. Our head office team can do that. And we are all early 50s, the founders. Chris Giles, as I mentioned, he's a little bit younger, mid 40s. So we've got plenty of gas in the tank to keep going at this business. And we all love it. I think that's the main thing. We are extremely passionate about it. So I think to answer that question, Michael, I would see us as a substantial regional player. I think we can definitely grow this in the next 5 years or so that Paragon becomes a real strength within the Midlands and the Northwest.
Mm-hmm. And what is it that, that because to be able to do that, what I've learned in business and what I can see people as really successful like yourself is that you know what you stand for and you know what it is that makes you stand out from others. What would you say is like your secret sauce that makes you, winning in your markets?
Okay, so I firmly believe we have a set of core values within the business that lots of businesses have. However, I genuinely believe that our teams live by those standards and values as they get into work, as they deliver to the customer. And that is what makes us stand out. The quality goes right through from the first thing that you see on the signage. We spend loads of time looking at the outside of the buildings. You come inside, and that quality goes through every single element of the business. It is constant. So, what I would say is from that, it goes service, food, drink, decor, all at the same level. What stands out there is trust with the consumer. The consumer trusts us to deliver that every time. They know exactly what they are getting from a Paragon venue, and we give them a memorable experience. I genuinely believe that as well, that going out for a meal, it's not good enough anymore just to go out and feed. We need to go out and actually have a memorable experience. And there's different ways that we can do that, but always through some degree of excellence, whether that's the actual product that goes down on the table or how it's delivered and the environment that you're in. If you can get all those elements to be memorable, then you've really got something special. And I think that's what makes us stand out, by living by those core values and delivering passion through every element. It gives us a consistent product. Not many businesses do that, I don't think, in my experience.
And I think that's the hard bit in business is actually getting, first of all, one thing is the defining the values, as you say, like lots of people has values. You get to the point, you get to the workshops or the documentation and you get them defined, but living them and breathing them in everything you do, that's the challenging bit, as you indicate. How have you made that happen? Like, as you've gone from, one side to two sides, and, you're lucky actually in a way. It's quite lucky you are those four founders and also an extra person joining the director team, and therefore you are five people, I guess, that's actually living those values and making sure they're in check besides your team. But how have you done that? Because like, when I meet business owners, this is one of their biggest challenges as they scale their business, is actually keeping that intact and keeping that first sight or first part of the business alive.
I think one of the ways that we've done that is by growing at a speed that was comfortable for us, which meant that we could take people through the ranks. We actually promote heavily from within. So when I look at our senior leadership team, whether that's the operations team that are now multi-site managers or the head office team, almost all of those, with a few exceptions, have come through the ranks. We've got a marketing guy that actually started on the bar, a finance guy that's worked for me for 15 years, and they are exceptionally talented people, and they've come through the ranks and they understand the ethos of the business, and that is critical. And I think that then just pervades every element. So the culture of the business is absolutely first and foremost. When people then come to join us, they don't really need to learn what the culture's about. It's just there. It's just something that we're doing. And I think a lot of that does come from the fact that people have come through the ranks. They worked with the founders originally, and therefore it's really clear in their mind what Paragon stands for and what that culture, how they should behave, what they should be delivering, and how we get those sort of mission statements across to our customers, and how we deliver the core values on a day-to-day basis.
Have you actually over the years build some kind of systems, or you know, you can call it processes as well, to keep the culture in intact, and make sure you have some touch points where you check in on it, because I guess as you get more and more people, it's more and more difficult to reach them all in one day or a week even.
Yeah, I suppose that kind of goes across a couple of areas there. We use an external source to test culture, I guess, and engagement, best companies. So we utilize that every year. We get a grading from them, if you like, if you're familiar with it. We currently have a best companies 2-star rating. We were just short of the 3-star rating, which was quite painful for me personally, but not a challenge we are shying away from in the future. So that's one way that we measure objectively what the culture and the engagement is like across the business. But also, as I said, the ops teams are in the sites. We also use a platform called Yapster, which is a great tool for keeping in touch with everybody across the company. So it's got a news feed, very much like you'd get on Facebook perhaps, but it's only internal for our business. So that way, different sites can promote if somebody's done something really exceptional within the site, or they've achieved something, they can put it on the news feed, and we can also message between each other. So that's a great way of keeping that culture alive now, and also for checking in, I guess. As you said, I can see exactly which sites, what they're posting on the news feed, and you quickly get a feel, even though I'm perhaps not in that particular venue every week, although I am most weeks. But if it is a period of time when I haven't been there, I can see what they're posting, and you can see and feel from different people and make sure that they're all coming from the same angle. It's culture for me is a lot about having a clear vision that you share with the whole of the team, and then they understand which direction we're all going in.
Yeah, as super interesting. Clarity of direction and purpose is so extremely important. And I actually think that's where sometimes people forget that's the first stepping stone in building culture, because then people actually can start deliver the culture you want to see. And it takes time, as you say, and keeping people on board is one of the most powerful thing I've experienced myself in some of the companies I've been lucky to work in. And also the companies I've studied is like exactly they have these culture carriers to actually make sure that things are always lived in the right way, or if not, we find a new way to get to the best way and the best culture that is needed now, because culture also changed over years. And I think that's one of my big learnings as well, like how you start out and how the culture develops, it will change, but the fundamentals beliefs shouldn't change. It's more about how we execute on it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as with any part of the business, there's an evolution, which takes into consideration changing trends, changing situations, and also the people who are involved in the business. So there's clearly an evolution, but I don't think we've actually strayed too far away from our original thought processes on culture. Quite a lot of it for me comes down to giving the people in positions of responsibility, they have full accountability, and they know that we trust them to deliver. That doesn't mean that we don't verify what they're doing, but we do trust them to deliver. And that's all part of the culture as well. I think that it all helps to give them that sense of ownership of their own little department, whatever that might be.
What you take that into account, it sounds like you have something like quite strong culture's foundation here, and now we're moving in. It's been challenging time with pandemic, lockdowns, and so on. We're in the post lockdown, and there's other challenges now. Now we have energy crisis. There's been labor crisis is still going on. What is your priorities in all this? You're opening a new site in June. You might have other on the drawing board. What is the priorities in the coming years for you guys, with also putting the challenges in that perspective as well for the wider industry?
You've probably hit the nail on the head with one of the biggest challenges at the minute, the energy crisis, if you like. Most restaurant businesses are heavy consumers of power, whether that's gas or electricity through those kitchens. It's difficult to get away with, and it's an operation that you can't just duck out of. So managing that sort of overhead is a priority, but also extremely difficult. And there's certain things that are out of our control with that. But growth, as you say, is a top priority. We are looking to grow, as I've said. So that is very much on the agenda. It has lots of benefits in terms of ticking some achievements that we'd like to see posted. It also gives us development opportunities, I think. I love growing the business because it means the teams can grow with us and develop it. It creates opportunities for people who have worked with us, and then we can take that culture further on. But the priorities in terms of controlling overheads, it's difficult. We're very lucky as a business that we're actually insulated largely because we've got contracts that just by luck are still running. So, and I really feel for my colleagues who haven't, because it's a challenge it's really difficult to face because it's a closed market. You can't go out and get price anywhere else. Everybody seems to be charging the same price for electricity. So you can't shop around. And ultimately, you can try and save, but when you've got huge increases, the savings that you can do are minimal. And ultimately, you still need your ovens on and you still need the pass on. It's tricky to deal with. And I think there will definitely be some casualties for those who have got full exposure to things like that.
Yeah, and I guess that, especially with the months to come, as the it was a really good Christmas most places. I guess that cash flow quickly gets legs to run on, as I would say. There's bills to be paid and there's more coming. What do you see in general in the industry? What do you think is going to happen here? Because it feels like for many, when I talk to people, it's like this is the last straw. There's no more strings to add here. They don't have any. They may be already taking an investment in. They may be already borrowed money in the bank. That they are starting now to. You can only grow at a certain speed. From a revenue point of view as well, to cover these costs.
That's right. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I like to look on the positive side, but I'm hopeful that it won't be catastrophic for the industry, because that would be really depressing for all of us. I think hospitality serves a great purpose for lots of reasons in our communities. I do think it will be less dramatic than has been actually touted. Certainly, we are seeing softening of the prices, although we haven't got loads of contracts that are expiring. We're still very much keeping our finger on the pulse with regards to pricing in that area. So it doesn't seem to be quite as bad as the predictions were suggesting. And looking ahead, certainly if interest rates have topped out potentially or are close to, inflation seems to have come off the boil. Certainly for us, we're finding that food pricing isn't as bad as it was perhaps 12 months ago, where prices were rampant. We've actually seen some prices retreat in the last couple of months. The consumer is still coming out. They are, they haven't disappeared completely. Christmas, as you said, was really good for us. We had our record days. All of our key dates were record sales days for us, which was great. And not just in terms of sales, with inflationary pricing allowed for, covers were up. So people were coming out in force. And since Christmas, we found that, yes, there is the usual recessionary pattern that we've seen in over years, where frequency of visits drop and the midweeks become much softer. And it's understandable that people are not going out on a Tuesday and a Monday night, and they are being much more careful with their money. However, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are at least as strong as ever. Spend per head is up. People are coming out and really treating themselves when they do come out, so that they may be going out less often, but they are making sure that they have a good time when they come out. And I think that's another place where Parogon is potentially being successful. We are a premium outlets, as I said, and that becomes more important as people go out less often. They actually start to seek out those quality experiences. And that trust element that I mentioned is also critical then. I trust you to give me that one night out this month, and I know you're going to deliver. So I'm going to go to your venue. And that, I think, is a real string in our bow over the next 12 months.
Is there any of these challenges? We touched a lot of them, energy crisis. We didn't talk so much about the labor crisis, but any of those that really is a blocker for you to move forward with your ambitions?
No, nothing that will be a blocker, Michael. Just something for us to consider, as always. I'm really bad at making predictions, as most people are, from what I can see. Especially economists, they normally backtrack within months of every prediction they make. But what we do, we look ahead and try and anticipate the worst case scenario and make sure we're prepared for that, and then hopefully we'll be on the right side. But there's nothing that will block us at all. And the staff crisis that I know the sector has experienced, again, we've been very fortunate to be insulated from that some degree. Brexit, I know, massively affected areas of tourism and big city centres. We didn't particularly have any European nationals working for us largely. We are 98% UK nationals working for us. So Brexit wasn't a huge hit. And then following on from that, the city centres, where they seem to have lost a lot of hospitality workers over COVID to other industries, we haven't been as badly affected by that either, perhaps because of our locality, out of the major cities. So certainly that won't restrict growth and hasn't reduced our appetite.
That's really interesting. If it was like you could take a magic wand and take one challenge away from the industry, which one would that be and why?
For me, there's two things that really bug me about the industry, and the two things that are controlled by the government. It's business rates, which are so antiquated. We have sites that are classed as pubs, and they are classified in one way on business rates. Then we have another site that's a restaurant, and they both do exactly the same thing, and yet they are massive differences in business rates. And some of this is just a total inequality. When you look at online retailers that have got huge sheds that are paying proportionally tiny amounts of business rates compared to retail and hospitality. It really is. It's a gross miscarriage of justice, I would say, at the minute. So business rates, for me, I would like to see them reformed. The other one is VAT on food, and the fact that supermarkets don't pay VAT on, or don't charge VAT on food, and we have to, which creates a big difference. And I think, I understand the origins of this sort of thing. However, as we've said, things change, and the way that supermarkets work now, and the way that people buy and consume food, and the type of food, those meals that you can buy, a ready meal that's ready to go, you can buy a whole platter of food, and there's no VAT on that from a supermarket, and yet we have to charge 20%. So that makes it much more difficult for us to compete on a level playing field. Those are the two things.
Oh, and the really interesting one, because those are systemic things that might need to change in general. As you say, society's moved on. We've been through a pandemic. We have new challenges as a country and industry. And it should be looked at. It's really, really interesting, because it's like, they might had their purpose when they were put in place, but now they may be totally out of purpose. You're not the only one that's raised this from the industry. So that's really interesting. How do you feel around technology as a business? Because there's been lots of chat, especially through the pandemic, about how technology actually can help us become, better businesses, better hospitality businesses. And there's like two different views on this. I feel often either you're like really pro technology, or then you're really like, that's not really what drives my business. It helps optimizing productivity, but it's not really a strategic game changer.
we try and be early adopters of most technology. We are big believers in data driving decisions, which generally you can only get if you've got the right technology in the right places. We actually replaced our EPOS system and reservation system during lockdown. We took the opportunity to overhaul our systems with a view to how things might change after COVID. I have to say that ultimately, technology, providing it doesn't create any barrier between the business providing an incredible service and it can enhance providing an incredible service, I am all for it. Why wouldn't we be? I don't understand why you wouldn't be. So for us, the EPOS system handles all the ordering. We have the handheld units that servers can use at the table to speed things up, to make sure that we can adapt the order right there, right then, as opposed to writing things down. All those sort of small points. The reservation system helps to maximize the restaurants in terms of the bookings and also gives convenience to the customer. So that works really well. But on the flip side of that, we use Yumpingo as well, which is a great way of getting feedback from customers again, which gives us hard and fast data that we then actually use to adapt menus. So we understand if you're just looking at sales data, you might not know whether or not that dish is well received or not. It might just sound really nice. So again, collecting that sort of consumer data is critical to us, and we get thousands of reviews a week. We also use technology for training. Again, as part of our expansion, we use a format called Mapal One, where our teams can have an app on the phone. There's the inductions are on that particular app. They can tick off various compliance certificates, and also we can upload training modules to that as a reinforcement for the one-on-one training that we do in sites as well. So yeah, technology is important. It's not the only thing, but it's definitely a huge supplement to the business.
I almost hear what I've heard some other people have used some very clever words, like you almost use it to do the heavy lifting of things and automate things that might or would take a lot of manpower to do and wouldn't move as quickly. And also, like, I really love the thing because that actually leads me to the next question you said about data, because that's really interesting. So I come from a background in McDonald's where everything is down to the second. You have data down to the second in the restaurants, and you made decisions on that, and actually data, if it's your strategy or whatever it is, has to be underpinned by data. So you already alluded to some of the answers to this question, I think, but how do you then, because you have probably, like many other CEOs and part of a director group, been making a lot of hard decisions over the last couple of years, and how do you make them? Because I think sometimes people think hard decisions are something you just quickly do on the whim, on the go. Have you found some kind of like a process for how you do that, especially in your role as the CEO?
Yeah, and that probably has changed after COVID, actually. And you're right, we generally go through a process of lots of analysis. So depending on what the decision is like, there's no question about it. Some decisions need to be made quickly and potentially instinctively. And after lots of experience, you quite often know which track to go down. And I also know which direction the business is going in. So the decisions are in that context, I guess. So that's probably for fairly standard decisions, though. When you're talking about really hard decisions, depending on what that might be, whether it was looking at a new site, which would be a massive commitment, for instance, or looking at things to do with the teams. Yeah, lots of analysis. Let's get as much information in front of me as possible. Let's get other people's opinions. We like to collaborate as a senior leadership team. So I like to hear other people's opinions. We've got lots of different personalities within our team. That sort of diversity of outlook is really important. So I like to get other people's opinions, and then I'll make my own decision based on all that once I've got it all fed into my decision-making tool, which is my brain.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, you as a leader, you take many decisions, and sometimes you don't even know what you're doing because you, as you said, you build up these, almost muscle memory about how you make decision on different areas because it worked you before. But like hard decision, often I really like the thing where you actually go out and pressure test this decision on other people and hear their angle and actually get their input as well, because they might see the world in a different view, and therefore the people that will be impacted by that decision might also feel the same. So I when I talk with people and they look back from 2020 to now, just been an absolutely crazy ride. What has been your like most significant learning, and you can call it in life and business, but what is like that thing I take with me for good or bad?
I think one of the things that we've taken through from it was to certainly to work on the business, not in the business. One of the first things that I did at the start of COVID was actually to take a back. Sounds crazy to take a back seat from running our. I'd set up a COVID task force, which was our senior leadership team, or the main parts of it, if you like, and then instead of chairing that meeting, to take a back step, get a guy in who was a great plays devil's advocate really well. He chaired those meetings, and I sat outside in that meeting so I could input as opposed to running the meetings. And that's something I've carried forward. It works really well. I can look in, I can be objective, I can listen to people's opinions as opposed to maybe using 30-40% of your energy just to run the meeting and keep everything ticking along and challenging. It works really well. So that was great. The other thing is routine. We have a head office meeting once a week at the same time with the same format every single week. And that's great. Everybody knows where they stand. They know what they bring into the meeting. It gives clarity to the team. So that's something that we've utilized going forward as well. Before, the meetings were much more ad hoc, whereas now we have a clear format and we stick to it.
I love that, because actually that's quite hard to achieve. First of all, meetings is a big challenge. Either you have too many of them, and the ones you have might be the quality, as you just said, or they're a bit too random. And actually that people know what to expect every time, because I have also been in a situation where people come to these senior meetings and they're quite nervous about them because they think it's about being exposed, because they really don't know what is on the agenda today. I'm actually ready to talk about this. I'm far enough in my insights to do that, actually, and therefore you have all this, I call it the game, going on, instead of really good meetings where you really get agreed and aligned on things so you can move on and improve that 1% next week.
100%. I think that's critical. And I think it's really helpful, as you say, that people know what the format will be and what's expected of them and not what's not expected. We start on time, we finish on time. It's a discipline, is how I would say. And it's a great discipline within the business.
Yeah, and you mentioned you brought somebody in to chair this meeting. Was that an external person, or was that somebody from inside the business that normally wouldn't be involved?
Yeah, no, he's our projects and compliance manager. So he was within head office, but yeah, somebody I identified early on as having the necessary skill set to be able to handle the group. He also encourages people to be involved, but he will also challenge. And he then went on to run our exec committee meetings for the next couple of years after that. So yeah, he's a great guy.
Great. And that's really interesting as well, how you can actually use people that maybe not sit in the senior leadership, but actually to come in and add value in for such a critical role, where actually best that you don't have any ownership from a leadership point of view.
Yeah, it works really well.
Good. How do you then yourself, as the CEO, make sure that Once it's a team, the disciplines around meetings, and then there's also you and your fellow directors that has to show up every day. But I'm more thinking about you and your ways of making sure you make positive impact when you are in contact with people, external or internal in the organization, because it's a tough job. There's lots of demands and things you need to do and take decisions about.
It is difficult. And you're right. As your team, we've got over 500 employees. Your influence on a personal level becomes potentially less and less, and gets further diluted if you're not careful. In the early days, your personal contact, people know you. They know exactly how you behave. You get to speak to them, so they understand what you want, and you can have a direct impact on individuals. I think the culture that we spoke about before is critical then to our influence pervading all angles, if you like. Personally, for me, I use Yapster. So we do video updates on there so the whole team can see that. So that, because even when I go and visit a site, there might only be a quarter of that team on when I go and visit. So I could be there 3-4 hours. I only see a quarter of the team anyway, if I pull all those together and have a chat to them. So you can't hit everybody, if you like, by just going around to each of the physical venues. So Yaps is a great tool that video just keeps everybody up to date with what's going on with the business. So that's really good. Quarterly meetings with the senior teams, that's the head office team and the management teams within the venues, is another great way for me. People have a limited attention span, if you like, and 3 months seems to be the cycle that we've started to adopt, where at that time potentially you need to make sure you've got alignment again, so that alignment comes back in and everybody's on the same page. We're happy with the vision, they know where they're going for the next three months, and we can all make sure that we're pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because we had a little chat before then, and I need to ask you this question now, because like, what book would you give away 9 out of 10 times? And we had a shared book, and that's why I'm quite excited about it, because I love this book as well. It's one of my favorite top 10 books.
Okay, so you, Michael, you've obviously detected that I've stolen some little elements from a book called Traction by Gino Wickman, and it's a great management. One of the reasons I like that book particularly is that it's quite direct. I think it gives practical solutions to people who are keen to develop their business, and lots of books don't. That you might pick out small elements through the book, or there might be a little nugget that you can take out of it, but I think Traction is a really great book, recommended to me by my accountant some time ago, who then went on to grow his business very successfully. And I'm always keen to take advice and listen and try things, and Traction is it's got some elements that can make a great format for your business, actually.
Yeah, and actually, all the advice is built on Gino's own experiences running his family business, but also what I think is really is also all the businesses he's collated like research work and made it very practical, as you say. And this is how you do meetings, because this format has been used 100,000 times and it works. You just need to put the work in to make the format work. And I always, I don't know if you know the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, a great book about how you build. It's a great conceptual book, but actually Traction, in my view, is the practical guide together with another book they call the CEO Tools 2.0, in a way, which also have this practical element of how do we actually go out and make sure a vision get sticky and so on. And really, this is the steps you need to take. These are the 5 steps. If you hadn't done the 5 steps, the vision will not stick. And it's also built on, again, businesses, and actually medium-sized businesses. It's not just the big flashy names as McDonald's or British Airways and so on. This is actually medium-sized businesses, which most businesses are, either small or medium-sized businesses, and therefore how you manage and lead in those businesses are very different from a big corporate and the resource you have to do it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. A big fan of Jim Collins as well. I like his I like his take on things. So again, research based. Much of his books are. So yeah, you feel like it's based on some data again. Maybe that's my the old scientist in me coming out.
Yes, back to the data again. I can see that. What will your top advice be to business leaders out there that want to build a business as a force for good in these times we're in?
Yeah, force for good. One of our core values is legacy, which for me we've interpreted as doing great things within the community, leaving something behind after the business, going beyond just employing and serving our guests. So for my advice, I guess, to be a force for good would be to find an outlet for that is relevant to either your business or you personally, that's outside of your usual business work, and how can you help that in some way. So for us, it's been supporting certain charities that had a real personal connection with, and that can be lots of, not just donations. It can be we free up time for members of the staff to go out. We've done food and things like that, things that we're good at, that we've shared with them. But yeah, I think it's about finding something that's relevant. And another force for good is, I personally feel, is how we develop our teams and how we develop those individuals within our teams, because I think that's great. And to see people literally transform over years. It's one of the brilliant things about hospitality, where you can get a youngster at 16 who is absolutely timid and shy and has no experience. And within 2 years, they are a confident, outgoing, practical person with a great skill set. It's amazing, and there's not many businesses that you get to do that. If you're sat behind a desk or you're in a call center, you don't get that, and it's a great social outlet as well. It's an amazing sector to be involved in.
It's so funny. That's my story. I was 15 when I ended at McDonald's, quite timid, and worked in my mom's hospitality business, and then that journey into McDonald's just elevated. So I'm so grateful McDonald's did that, because that made me be able to go and do things, literally, because that's the most important skill to have. It doesn't matter which degree you take. If you don't do anything with it, it doesn't really matter if you don't push the boundaries. So yeah, it's really, really interesting you said that. I really, really, I can only, shout out on that one as well. What is the one question, Richard, you wished I've asked you? And what would that question be, and what would you have answered?
That is a good question. I suppose the only thing that, yeah, I guess you haven't asked what's maybe most proud about being part of Parogon, because I have got a lot of pride. I don't know if that's come across or not from our conversations, but yeah, the pride within the business, and the thing that's made me most proud, if you like, is that achieving that Best Companies 2-star, which was a reflection of how we've engaged with the teams, and how important ultimately, any business, but especially hospitality, you are only as good as your people. And that bit makes me the most proud, is our teams and working with them. I love it.
That's a really, really good question, and you should be proud, because it's tough to get those stars, or actually even get on the list, in a way. So I think also because that often also comes from years of putting in without expecting anything back. I think it's not like I do these marketing initiative and then the sales comes. It's really investing in culture and your own development, because of course you're a reflection of the culture. So yeah, I think that was a really good one. Where can people find out more about you, or maybe connect with you and think, I really want to ask Richard this, or maybe I want to know more about the Parogon Group? How do we get in contact with you guys?
You can get in touch with me through LinkedIn, which is a great platform. So I'm on there, Rich Coldlough on there. Parogon Group, we have our own website, also got my contact details on there. There's lots of background information on the business, on my fellow directors, and there's direct contact on there.
Great. Thank you so much, Richard, for taking the time out to come and share the story of your amazing business and what you learned and what you're doing to build a great business. I send all the power and energy that you and the team needs for the times ahead. And thank you again.
Thanks, Michael. That was great.
I really appreciate that you're listening in. So, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please share with others, rate or give a review, or subscribe to one of our channels, which all can be done via the website hospitalitymavericks.com. I believe that reading the right books is the key to become a better leader. So I've helped you with a curated list of some of the best books to improve yourself, others, and the organization. Find them on hospitalitymavericks.com. A big thank you to BizSimply for supporting us, bringing great insights, strategies, and tools to help leaders to become better every day. Check them out at bizsimply.com or on their socials at BizSimply or BizSimplyHQ. You can also email them directly at podcast@bizsimply.com. Thank you to Fina Charlson, who is the show producer from the Podcast Collective. If you have any ideas and feedback for the show or other thoughts, reach out to me via LinkedIn or via my email, michael@hospitalitymavericks.com. I'm Michael Tinkser, and you've been listening to the Hospitality Maverick podcast show. Be Maverick.